An old Chevy hubcap, an old photo of a guy in his car, an old drinking fountain from the 50s. All just tiny parts of a living, evolving mosaic, a cluttered, kaleidoscopic quiltwork of American life called XXX Root Beer. This place is the goodness of what we were, looking back at us through the prism of time. Big food, great tunes, good times.
Oh man, it's really good stuff.
Every weekend there's a car show at XXX, and all different kinds of people, black, white, Hispanic, you name it, speak the language of the automobile.
Had more torque than any production engine in the world that year.
Check that out. Oh, he got that flathead V8.
Check it out, dude. Everything works except the horn.
Jose Enciso built this place from nothing. Remember that hubcap? There's a story there.
I didn't have nothing to do with the decoration. It just happened. The guy brought me a hubcap. Hey, here, we'll put it up. Right there.
What is that?
That's the very first item that was brought in here, very first item.
And remember that guy in his car? Another story.
You're here somewhere, Eric. And it's my favorite picture. You look like Bruce Springsteen. It's, oh, here, right here. Right there, right there. I love that picture, Eric. I just love it.
And that old drinking fountain, there's a story there too. Only this one is different.
We used to be migrant cotton pickers, you know. And so, you know, this was back in Texas, which at that time it was really racial. I mean, it was open season, you know.
They followed the crops. Unwelcome in motels, they slept under their truck. Unwelcome in restaurants and grocery stores, somehow they made do.
You know, since we couldn't buy groceries to buy lunch when we were traveling, what my dad and the crew would do is that he would stop to the side of the road and all the men would get off and they go hunt rabbits. And so all the women would take, you know, the cotton branches and make fire.
There is one story that is etched into Jose's mind like a tattoo and will live there forever. One farmer gave Jose's dad a few acres so he could grow his own fruit to sell it on the side of the road.
We went to this remember this huge church, and my dad parked his pickup and he put the candles, opened the lid in the back, and we had candles like that, so we were all excited. And then they started coming out of the church, you know, we got ready. And I remember, you know, a bunch of white guys, men, drove up on a station wagon and they got off and they started screaming at us and calling us names and cussing and stuff and we freaked out. Well, I mean, we didn't know what was happening, you know, us kids. But my dad knew. So what my dad did, he braced us and he held us, you know, he covered the leg. So what these guys did, they grabbed the melons and they threw them on the ground and took it and they started throwing them at us. I remember seeds all over the place and sticky, you know, yeah. And I mean, it was like mental like crash. We didn't know what, you know, church, coming out of church. You know?
And there was something else. Jose says that in those parts, in those days, Mexicans weren't allowed to use drinking fountains. They drank instead straight from the spigots. And so at XXX today, that porcelain fountain is a private symbol hidden in plain sight. And the spigot that's been placed behind it is no accident either.
Just a reminder, you know, to keep going, endurance.
So how is it that this man of all men would build this temple to the very time and the very nation that wounded him so deeply? Maybe the giant root beers are his answer to drinking fountains he wasn't allowed to use. Maybe the giant burgers are his answer to the daily rabbit for lunch. Maybe the welcoming hospitality, the cheery sweetness of this man. Maybe that's his answer to the rejection and confusion he faced as a boy. And maybe all of it, the whole celebration of Americana, the cars, the flags, the memorabilia, maybe it's all just that kid in Texas, still trying to prove something. Trying to prove that he's an American.
Somehow I gathered my own strength, you know, and continued pushing forward. And, you know,
And yet, you obviously love this country.
Oh my gosh, I love America. Yeah, I love our America, yeah.
I told him that to me, he's an all-American boy. Maybe the most all-American boy I've ever met.
I became an all-American boy. I proved myself to be an all-American boy. I proved myself to love this country. I worked for it. I worked for it. So when I say I am an American, Mexican American, without leaving aside my culture, my race, I'm an American. I will always be an American.
So perhaps we've had it all wrong about XXX root beer. Maybe this place isn't a celebration of what America was, but rather what it always wanted to be. And maybe somehow that's been Jose's point all along.
Jose, you're my hero.